Step 1, wake up early, gonna rise with the sun. Step 2, get some good, some food in you. Step 3, think real hard about what you wanna be. Step 4, everybody just do your thing.
Wake up, today's gonna be a good day. 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 Yo, set your affirmations, aspirations. I got shit to do, the aftermath of preparation. Good food, good mood, blood in circulation. One step at a time, yeah, that's how you make it. Set a goal you control and the steps you take them. I try to pick one thought, have some concentration. And if I make a mistake, it's called education. I try to do this every day, call it replication. Wake up, today's gonna be a good day. 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 So life ain't easy, yo, I think there's a reason though. Ups and downs, just like every different season, yo. Sometimes I'm high, other times I'm barely breathing, though. I always gotta fight and hide from the demons, yo. Negative thoughts are poison, they ride, Head full of flies, so here come the clouds, They'll never stop unless I can swap all the bad for the good in my head when I'm lost, Yeah, so I'ma fake it till I make it. Positive thoughts are overtaken, I got patience. One day at a time is how you operate a cadence. A flow, you grow, you show yourself a foundation. Stay away from all the shit that causes temptation. I know that I like to do it cause it's sensation. I live my life in my head like a narration. Don't expect greatness, do my best, man, I'll take it. Wake up, today's gonna be a good day. 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 Wake up, today's gonna be a good day.
Wake up early, gonna rise with the sun. Step 2, get some good, some food in you. Step 3, think real hard about what you wanna be. Step 4, everybody just do your thing.
As you wake up in the morning, you want to find the latest, greatest information about criminal cases and have an intuitive conversation about the suspects associated with these cases. Head over to the Bullhorn Betty channel on YouTube. Get breaking news right here on the Bullhorn Betty channel. Welcome to the Bullhorn Betty Coffee Club. Enjoy your stay and enjoy your day.
This, but let me put this out here. Stop sparing folks. Hello, somebody. Stop sparing folks. Nobody cared when your feelings was hurt. Nobody cared when you was pacing the floor. Nobody cared when you was sliding down the wall. Nobody cared when you was standing over there with a face full of tears. You had to suck it up, buttercup. But then when it come to other folk feelings, here you are, want to tiptoe around it, want to avoid the elephant in the room. I don't want to upset anybody. I don't want to disturb the peace. Stop sparing folk. Ain't nobody spare you when it was your turn. Give it to them real. Give it to them raw. Give it to them uncut and uncensored. This is exactly what it is. This way you had me messed up at. Yeah. I ain't playing with nobody this season, baby.
Most people are not willing to work hard, which I'm okay with. I'm okay with that. I'm not judging you if you don't want to work hard. Just fuck you if you're going to complain about it. That's what I have a problem with. That's the lazy, ambitious group, and they're scary as hell. They want everything, but they're not willing to work for anything. right? Because they'll do things that'll destroy the golden goose to try to get what they want now. So it's okay if you don't want to work hard. I'm totally okay with that. Hey, you want to go fucking live on the beach and live off the land and fucking pedal to get shit? Great. That could be your lifetime. That's what you want to do. There is zero judgment in my heart. Just don't ask the world to change to fit your fucking lifestyle.
Welcome to the Bullhorn Betty Coffee Club.
People, and of course I'm dark as always. I didn't set up lights or anything like that, and this is just not good lighting, so I may end up kicking my camera off because I'm blurry, I'm dark. I don't know. I wish I was this tan all the time, but I'm not. It's nice to see everybody here this morning. We're gonna go. There's something that was weird. I literally got 2 cases. You guys, some of you guys are on my other channel, Bullhorn Betty Crime Stories. We kind of run daily news updates. We haven't done it in a while, but I've been trying to prepare for 2 trials. One I knew about for 4-2. The other one that was kind of thrown on my plate, within several weeks. I just had, I think it was like 2 weeks, and boom, we were expecting it to be at the end of the month. It's in the middle of the month, so what have you. You guys know the routine. So I was not really all, paying attention, and I was mixing up 2 cases because the women look so similar. And it's 2, one's a dentist and one's a traveling nurse, and they both unalive their people, so I kept getting confused, and I'm like, I thought it was in Georgia. I'm one of those things where I just feel like I'm living in deja vu, but not, because I kept reading this, and when I'd read another thing, it'd be in North Carolina, then I'd read another thing and it'd be in Georgia, and I'm like, what in the world is going on here? And I finally realized they're 2 different names, but the people look very, very similar. They're not identical. They're not doppelganger type things, but they're like, they could be sisters. I'm not lying. So we're going to touch on that just a little bit, because this is something that happened, yesterday. And then it was this morning that everything finally clicked. And I'm like, wow. So I'm going to go over that in just a second. It's going to be brief. And then we're going to jump into this older case. But I think we can garner some information from this much older case that Law and Crime recently just dropped. And it's quite interesting because you see behaviors of people that were presumed innocent or had no culpability spinning this tale, and then years later is arrested for the crime. So I think for us not to look at the past for our cases that we're covering would be, is not good. I think we really need to look at people's behavior, look at the statements made, all these other things. So let's get kind of started. I'm going to go over the first case with you real quick. ER Blue, it's nice to see you. Southern Grammy, big hugs and kisses. I hope you're doing well. Sheena, it's nice to see you. Mary, Steelers Lady. Dawn, it's nice to see you. Casey, Deanna. Good morning, Laura. Chaos Bunny's here. And I know that if she's here, VA is right around the corner. So hey, VA. Aletha, it's nice to see you. Deanna. Oh, Big Mac Mike up in the house. Where you been hiding? In the bushes? I'm just joking. I'm just joking. Kathleen, Libby, it's nice to see you. Fruit Basket True Crime Drama. That's a mouthful. It's nice to have you. Cinderella, it's nice to have you. Stephanie, hello, good morning. Daisy Joe, Castle, Pippi Strong, it's nice to see you. West Virginia, holla, girl. Holla back, y'all. Coco Pete, it's nice to see you. Good morning. Barbosa, nice to see you, my friend. Southern Charm, KJ Mack, it's nice to see you. Dusty Garbage Girl, it's nice to see you, Dusty. Good morning. Faye, good morning. Brienne, good morning. Aletha, 6 months. It's hard to believe it's been that long. It's just, I remember when you first started coming onto the show. It's hard to believe. It feels like it's just yesterday. It's hard to believe it has been 6 months. God bless you. Astrology for the Mystic. It's nice to see you as well. Brienne, good morning. Peggy, Linda, Melanie, DW, hello. Monica, good morning. Canadianness, it's nice to see you, love. Cassie Roku, Melanie, Linda, it's nice to see you all here this morning. Oh, Linda, hello. EC, it's nice to see you. Orlando's not that far. So, again, you guys have to see this because, like I said, it's kind of obsessed with true crime. It's nice to see you. 7 months. Definitely a lot longer, LOL. Hey, Pebbles. Good morning, love bug. I hope you're doing well. God bless you guys. It is Sunday. I'm trying to get this done before church so we can have, because I wasn't live yesterday. Lots of stuff going on in my sphere yesterday that, anyways, long story short, I just had, travels, everything. I just needed a day. So with that being said, we have a lot lined up for today. I'm sorry I'm a little laggy, but I've got Fox News running behind the background right now because we're going to be going to that story in just a second. Let me pull this up. I want to show you guys something because this is where it's a little weird for me. Okay, you see this, right? This is a case of Suzanne, okay? And look at her face, okay? This is Suzanne. Now, I want you guys to see something else. She's from Georgia. She unalived her boyfriend, right? Well, this lady here is Shayna Cloud. She's from North Carolina. And she not only unalived her husband, she dismembered the same person, right? So I just thought this is why I was so darn confused. Let me see if I can pull Shayna up. Let me see if I got some images of Shayna. There we go. Like let me just, did I share view in StreamYard? So there's one. Here's the other. I'm telling you, they're not identical, but they could be sisters. No? They could literally be sisters. I'm sorry. But look at this lady's face right here. And look at this lady's face right here. I'm telling you, these ladies, oh, I didn't show you that one. And then this one. These ladies could be sisters. One's in Georgia and one's in North Carolina. So I've been getting confused about their cases, but I'm watching the one with the green beret, which is the one out in North Carolina. It's the traveling nurse. The one we debuted on our true crime channel was the one in Georgia because it was a dentist. I said I felt like there was some, I just felt like there was a hint, there was more going on behind the scenes than what we knew. For the one in Georgia, I felt like we're going to hear that there was domestic violence and spousal abuse or, boyfriend, girlfriend abuse type of thing. And so when I was hearing this other one and they're like, oh, well, we found her husband and dismembered in a lake and all this other stuff. I'm like, I guess I was wrong about it. My initial assessment, which happens because, their initial, assessments based on a few Google articles. Obviously, we know how I feel about, being reliant upon Google and mainstream media and stuff like that. Not that they're bad or they say things or whatever, but It's just that there's a lot of perspective and them withholding information. Why, I don't know. We have freedom of the press in this country, but they do. And they do that for political purposes. They do that so when law enforcement, when they want an interview with law enforcement, they don't get 86'd, or if they want to, they kind of, whatever, law enforcement. We on social media, that when government politicians would actually, give social media the time of day like they do mainstream media, even though we're all the same in part, right? Then they'll have probably a little more leverage on social media. But right now, the government still thinks that they can push social media around by saying, oh my God, you got to be careful of social media, right? To help mainstream media, whatever. I don't really care. Whatever the manipulation strategy is there. But they'll never be able to rein in social media or control what comes out of social media's mouth. They may have opportunities in some local areas where they start, giving social media instead of dogging social media, because we run circles around mainstream media in many parts. There went my camera. Give me just a second. Let me kill this. Yeah, I'm not sure why it does that, but it does. It does. Whatever the case may be, it does. My stuff, I hate those USB-C, because there are little loops. There's nothing that holds those little things into computers. I think it's the worst, absolutely the worst technology ever. Why everybody's converting to these things, I have no earthly idea. They literally fall out of my MacBook Pro. And I don't like the USB-C. I think this is the worst invention of our lifetime. I like the USB. The USB worked just fine. And now they want to give us these little tiny slots that don't even hold the stuff in. There's nothing to hold them in. They fall out all the time, but I digress. So I'm not going to go over, but we are going to be following the Green Beret one in part because this is pretty interesting. And this is kind of where I feel like this lady, and that's what was confusing me, because I remember my assessment. And like I said, I just realized that these are two totally different people. I was confused. They look similar in the pictures. So I'm getting confused. And so anyways, I'm looking at this Green Beret one, and I'm like, I thought I had assessed, I thought I looked into this and it looked like there might be some domestic stuff. And then I'm like looking at this one, and I'm like, I'm getting this vibe of this lady being just angry. She spent all this time with her husband, and now her husband's cheating on her and is filing for divorce, and she executes him for it. And that's what happened. And then how a woman has the ability to do what she did is very, very disturbing, because it takes a certain kind of person to be able to take the father of your children and, take pieces of him to a pond or a lake. I just don't understand that mentality. And so that is what's going to be what we focus on, because that's interesting to me. Why is it interesting to me? Because I don't understand it, right? I don't understand how somebody can do that. And I think that is the interest in that case. And that's with Shayna Cloud in North Carolina. So we're going to be following a little bit of Shayna Clouds. It's not going to be for this segment here. I just wanted to tell you guys, because I don't want anybody else, when I start dovetailing to Shayna, us thinking that this is the dentist that I was talking about on the other channel, because it's not. It's a new case. Yes, she looks similar. Yeah, she could be the lady's sister. Totally different case, totally different state. So we're going to be diving into that one here in the near future. But I think the one that really has perked my curiosity, because I watch a lot of this stuff, I've been taking time to go through to see if I can garner any edge. That's what I'm looking for, the edge in possibly these cases, right? I'm looking for that case that makes us curious. And that is definitely a case that makes us curious, but not going back to old cases that have already been solved, cases that have already gone through the system, right? and people that were presumed innocent that through investigations were found out to be guilty. And there was one case that kind of came up that really, I think, embodies some of that. And I know we've done a couple of other ones, but I really think this will give us clarity, not even on the active case that we are working on currently, but also other cases such as Summer Wells. You know, we have a lot of cases of missing children and no one has been arrested for. We have cases of missing people that nobody's been arrested for. There's many missing people out there that are deceased that are still listed as missing because they went cold. This is a case that I have to believe people thought would never be solved or something. And this is a case that happened in 2011. And it was a man and a woman. They were fiancés. They had dated for 5 years. They had been engaged for a year. It seemed like a normal situation. And then all of a sudden, she disappears without a trace. Now, her boyfriend's name is John Carter. Her name is Kaitlyn Markham. And this happened on the night of August 14th, 2011. And Carter called 911 to report his fiance missing. And in the months and years that followed, he repeatedly provided information to the police. He spoke out to local and national media, pleaded for her return. In one interview, he told NBC, the show, he was still calling her cell phone daily. That's all I've been doing is hoping, he said then. But last year, and this was, when was this article? So back in 2023, more than a decade after Markham's remains were discovered in a makeshift dump in Indiana, Carter's portrayal of himself as a desperate partner unraveled with a stunning development. He was actually indicted on 2 counts of murder. This was years later. And, you know, at this point, we know the statistics. We have a lot of cases in Tennessee. And by far, Tennessee so far is the focal point of the Bullhorn Betty channel. We've been in that state for over 4 to 5 years, working multiple different cases in that state, from Summer Wells to Layla Santinello. We briefly did some investigative work on Holland Snap. And we are, covered the Sebastian Rogers case, all in Tennessee, all 4 missing, all 4 have not been closed, all 4 have no suspects or persons of interest arrested, all 4 have gone without justice. And Summer Wells is one that is the oldest. However, what we learn in Tennessee and across the board, it gets harder and harder and harder to close a case after a year. So why are we looking ahead? Because I have no faith in Tennessee. Okay? I have no faith in Tennessee with cases like this. When we start hearing cases like this, we know that they don't have the laws to support their law enforcement to help them. They have lack of infrastructure in their state for simple stuff like internet and cell phone and trackable and traceable items like cell phones, fit watches, whatever the case may be. When you have lots of areas without internet, and those are the places where people dump, you're screwed. The state is screwed. Until the infrastructure, I think the infrastructure is the most important to law enforcement in Tennessee right now. Because I think it's the infrastructure, the lack of internet, the lack of services in that state is preventing law enforcement from utilizing today's technology, which many other states are able to use because they have the necessary infrastructure in their state. This state is lacking on a lot of fronts. Whether they want to admit it, whether you guys want to acknowledge it, it doesn't matter. The state of Tennessee is not firing on all cylinders, and it is affecting the law enforcement and their ability to close cases that require this data. A lot of these people are becoming more and more clever because we have the internet, We have the true crime genre. We have, we study these cases, and so do these assailants. And so do these assailants. And they watch and they learn. And in a state like Tennessee, that is very well known, despite what people want to believe and despite what anybody of official status tells people, they do not. It's very rare. Let me put that out there. Very rare. In the state of Florida, I can name at least 120 cases off the top of my head that were circumstantial cases that were charged, that went through the system, and that were found guilty of the crime. We don't have that in Tennessee. They are literally, and I don't care what they try to tell people, but if you look at the state's history, they are a no-body, no-crime state. And as much as they don't like me saying that, and as much as it makes them cringe because they say, oh, if we could build a strong circumstantial case, we'll go ahead and do a circumstantial. I don't believe that. I don't believe that. Because their history dictates their future in this case. And their history is, if they do not have a body, they do not have a crime. That's why somebody like Chris McDonough over in the interview room is constantly saying to Hawkins County, this is a solvable case. If they wanted to solve it, they choose not to. But I have a funny feeling it's because of the major corruption in Hawkins County that's preventing them. What am I talking about? Well, I find it awfully funny that the sheriff's own son can physically have contact and injure a child in a sexual nature and get 1 year in jail, but another community member that had photos on his phone wasn't engaged in the actual filly touchy stuff like the sheriff's son was, and he goes to jail for 8 years. 8 years. His son was facing 20 years in prison and got 1 year. If that's not corrupt as hell, I don't know what is. Corruption is alive and well in Tennessee. Okay? And haves and have-nots are alive and well in Tennessee. So, with that being said, we've got problems. But, I digress. Those are my personal complaints and issues that I have with the state of Tennessee. This next case, I think we can garner a lot out of. We're going to go by bits and pieces. I'm not going to do the whole thing, but there are some good chunks of information here. Jesse is really good. I like him on Law and Crime. It's something. His voice is so soothing to boot. There are a few, you guys know, there are a few mainstream media people that I really, truly love. I care, like Brian Enton with News Nation. I absolutely believe he's out for the right reasons. I believe that he is good at his job. And I believe he is an investigative journalist. That means he doesn't mind stepping on people's toes or making people uncomfortable respectfully. I like that. Court TV, Vinnie Politan, right? Like him. He's a very strong person in this true crime genre. He is mainstream media and somebody that I highly respect. We have Nancy Grace, same thing. And of course, we have Law and Crime, which I know a lot of the people on Law and Crime. I've been out in the field long enough to know some of these people. I know them, they know me, just from covering these cases and being out there at the press conferences, out of this case, out of this case. For a while, you just learn who everybody is, and you talk and you say hi when you're out there and stuff like that. So there are some mainstream media. Those aren't the people that I throw under the bus when I'm talking about mainstream media. Most of the time I'm talking about local, okay? The local media. That is mostly the mainstream media that I refer to that I think is losing their footing in America, because they do not honor the freedom of press, and they will do what a politician tells them in an effort to get that next interview. And that to me is appalling. That to me shows no integrity. And I can't sit there and be, advocating for integrity while associating with people that have no integrity. So most of my my complaints and moans and groans are local related, not on national platforms. There's a lot of national people that I highly respect that also do this type of work and do it well. But getting back to this case of, good gracious, why can't I remember her name? Kaitlyn. It's going to be hard to, which it shouldn't be because KK and Kaitlyn run together, but she's the victim. She's the victim. And this happened in the Cincinnati suburbs where she lived. Carter called 911, reported her missing. In the months and years that followed, he repeatedly gave information saying that he's, pleading for her. In one interview, he wants her to come home, calls her daily. That's all I've been doing is hoping, right? We're just hoping, sitting and waiting for her to come home, right? It's kind of same thing. But last year, which was actually in 2023, because this article was from 2024, more than a decade after this woman went missing, and I know that's very hard, a decade, right? That may very well may be what we're up against in some of our other cases. I truly hope somebody starts, a guardian ad litem or something, starts petitioning the courts after 7 years to declare Summer Wells deceased. And because her parents won't do it because I believe that they're guilty of the crimes against her. I think her father art her. I think something happened. I think there's a lot of things that go through my mind with that case because there was a reason why they were lying about why he wasn't there and when he was home. I know he was home because I know earlier he had his kids at work. And if his boys were sitting at home, he was there. Period. And I've said that from a long time ago. Weeks before his trial was set to begin in June, there was more startling news. Prosecutors had agreed to drop charges if Carter pleaded guilty to the lesser crime of involuntary manslaughter. On July 8th, a judge sentenced Carter to 36 to the maximum time in prison under Ohio law, which was 3 years. And that's disgusting. There should have been more done for this beautiful girl, but I digress. Let's listen to some of the information. I think this is relevant to you. Let me get to it. I think Jesse is still Hold on. Let's listen. Let me get this up here. I just realized I didn't have it. I dropped my screen share. And they said she was a free spirit. That might have been something, but they had been together for 5 years and engaged for 6. So engaged for a year before this happened. It makes you wonder what in the world happened. What in the world happened?
One might be Fairfield police want to speak with the people closest to her and the last person to see her. Police ask her fiancé, John Carter, to come to the station for questioning.
Let me just give you guys a little background about this, too. There were 3 people at the house the night she disappeared. Her friend ended up going to a party, and it was just her and her fiancé, and her fiancé said he went home after her friend left. That he went home. And he didn't hear from her, drove by her house and saw her car there while she's supposed to be at work, and that was what triggered him to call 911.
He's not a suspect, just someone who knows about Markham's habits and friendships and who may be able to point the investigators in the right direction. But when he arrives at the station, police notice something suspicious.
All right, man. I want to take pictures. Like I said, we keep asking about those. It's just precautionary type. I believe you that it's from shaving.
There are several red scratch marks running vertically down the left side of Carter's neck. He tells Fairfield.
And I want that to be, I want you guys to pay attention to that because, there is a case, and of course we've been covering it. You guys know Sebastian Wayne Drake Rogers' stepfather had a lot of marks on his arms. Okay? One thing we didn't see is a lot of marks on his neck. Because if somebody's doing something, the chances of them scratching toward in front and toward the face would be more prevalent than trying to grab arms and stuff like that. But again, depending on how they're holding. But I just thought that was important because I truly believe that those markings on his arms are from woods. and from being in woods. Honestly, that's been my opinion. But, I always say that this is, people perceive that it's scratches and bite marks. I never said I agree with that. It does have some appearance of bite marks, but for me personally, I've always thought that those were scratches because I've been searching for people for years. And I've been in the woods and in the swamps, and you guys have remembered how people say, "Oh, she's out there complaining." Well, I don't see their big butts out there doing it. And when you get smacked in the face and you say "ow," I'll be laughing at you and saying, "Oh, you're complaining, are you? You're out there complaining, huh?" Right? But I've been out there. Other people on this platform outside of me and Olivia and maybe one or two other content creators, they don't know what it's like being out in those woods searching. Right? There are a few, but but besides that, nobody understands until you're out there in the woods, until you're in the swamp, until you're wrapped up in trees, wrapped up in vines, getting scratches all over you. You don't know what it looks like until you experience it. Sticker bushes, absolutely. But there's all kinds of stuff out there, things that I don't even know what the names of them are. And you turn around. I remember one, let me tell you one's a palm frond. Olivia was walking in front of me and let go of a palm frond, and that thing, it hit me so hard in the face. I was seeing spots, So I was surprised I didn't have a black eye or a broken nose, but boy, I tell you what, it made my head spin. So let's keep going.
Police that the scratches are from an electric razor. But detectives aren't so sure. They ask Carter if he's willing to take a voice.
Listen to this. They matched that shaver up with his mark, as the marks on his neck, and determined that the marks on his neck do not go with the blades on his razor. So that was interesting. So this is how, I want you guys to pay attention to these little nuances, because they have to fact find every little detail. That's why we go through the statements of the parents or the suspects or the people in and around the victim, because we fact find that. Why? Because that's what law enforcement is going to do. And if we are going to have as much information as law enforcement, when law enforcement isn't telling us anything, we have to do the same practices. We have to listen to the words that are coming out of their mouth, and we have to fact find those words. If there are scratches, if there are something like that, we need to determine what are those scratches from. Remember, Mr. Proudfoot said that those scratches on his arms were from the the Morkies. And when you take the foot of the Morkies and put them up to the lines on the arm, there's no possibility. That's why we did that, right? Is because we needed to eliminate the Morkies as the possible animal that could have made these marks on that arm. And it was determined by us, not law enforcement, by the true crime community, that those are not dog paw prints. And I stand behind that 100% unless substantial information comes forward to the alternative.
Voice stress analyzer test, and he agrees.
Is your name John Carter?
Yes.
Is today Monday?
Yes.
Do you know information pertaining to the current whereabouts of Kaitlyn Markham?
No.
Did you cause the disappearance of Kaitlyn Markham?
No.
It's not long after the initial police interview.
So you notice they did a voice stress test. That's what they called this. They didn't call this the polygraph test. They called this a voice stress test. And one thing I didn't look up is a voice stress test the same as a polygraph? And the answer is no. It's not the same as a polygraph. So is a voice stress test admissible in court? And the answer is generally voice stress analysis, including computer voice stress analysis, are not admissible in court as evidence of deception. They cite lack of scientific acceptance. So this is also, even though it's not a polygraph, it is not admissible in a court of law. So let's listen. I thought that was important to know.
interviews that search efforts for Kaitlyn Markham begin. Throughout the first 2 weeks of her disappearance, missing person flyers are plastered around Fairfield, and several searches take place near Markham's home. Tim Miller, founder of Texas EquiSearch and
We already know about Tim Miller. I want to get to okay, here we go.
Years spend an entire Saturday scouring miles of densely wooded areas surrounding Markham's home.
Miles of densely wooded areas. Let's keep listening. There are some things we can garner out there, and there's going to be one coming up here in just a second.
They don't uncover anything, but the search brings media attention to Markham's case. Her disappearance quickly starts to attract widespread attention at both the state and national levels. To keep up the momentum, Markham's family posts a $5,000 reward for information. Over time, that number would increase to $50,000. At the beginning, one suspicious character, John Carter, when detectives discover the scratches on his neck don't match the blade on his electric razor. And when the friend who was with the couple that Saturday night tells investigators he doesn't recall seeing any scratches on Carter that evening.
So now we have an eyewitness, but to be honest with you, I saw the little scratches on his neck. I don't know if those would have been visible to me, with an untrained eye, being there to party and kick it. Would I pay attention to somebody having scratches on their neck? I'm not sure if I would have. Personally speaking, I try to be fair when I analyze this stuff. And personally speaking, for me, do I know if this person would have scratches on their neck? I don't know. But I digress. There is evidence, but there was somebody else at their house. Let's listen.
And remember, that voice stress test Carter agreed to take in his very first interview, those results aren't helping either.
I'm just really scared. Mm-hmm. I'm genuinely scared. And I don't...
What are you scared of right now?
Not getting Kaitlyn back.
Okay.
And I don't know why it's inconclusive.
Boom. Inconclusive, right? Remember, we have people that manipulate situations in a particular case that we have covered. Okay. Actually, multiple cases we have covered, including but not limited to Summer Wells, Sebastian Rogers, the West Boys, all this other stuff. These people were put under these voice stress tests or polygraph tests. And either way you look at it, people in their mind, if something is inconclusive, especially somebody that is responsible, they feel they passed their test, right? Because it wasn't a fail. It was inconclusive. And sometimes I feel like when law enforcement doesn't have enough to charge somebody or something, they may lie to the person and say it was inconclusive as opposed to a total failure. So that makes me wonder, were other people in other cases also told they were inconclusive in an effort to maybe deceive them a little, but have enough to question them on it? And I feel like some people would come out and say that they passed it with flying colors, as opposed to it being inconclusive, but really they're just telling the person it's inconclusive when they totally failed. I don't know. But in this case, this was inconclusive. He's now been charged and convicted of her death. He killed her. I got 3 years. I find it disgusting, personally. He's a murderer. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. A woman that he was with, and I don't know what it was for.
Okay.
I'm more than willing to do anything else to prove.
To prove? When have we ever heard someone say to prove something, right? No evidence. I don't know what to do to prove it. We don't have videos to prove where he's at. Have we heard those statements before? Again, these statements are crucial and critical to know how the behaviors of these suspects are and what their terminology is. Because you'll find more times than not It seems like they have a similar vocabulary in situations like this. And that is what is ultra, ultra concerning. But it's also educational for us, right? We're looking at a person that is guilty and is able to sit here and lie to a detective. The detective, in all fairness, I'm looking at his body language as well. And he doesn't seem like even this early on, he doesn't seem like he's buying this guy's statement. This guy is very calm, in my opinion. When I'm looking at his body language, when I'm looking at who he is, and looking at the photos of him with his fiance, he looks like a normal guy. I'll be honest with you. He looks like a dud and a putz to me. He looks harmless. I definitely would never have thought he could be capable of this stuff. But at the end of the day, he was the last person that saw her. He was the only person with her. Lots of the same details, maybe different context, but there's a lot of the same details in this case.
That I'm not involved in her disappearance.
Okay. How about someone else?
However, you can see his nervousness with his hands. Let's go back.
Why it's inconclusive.
Okay.
I'm more than willing to do anything else to prove that I'm not involved in her disappearance.
Okay. How about someone else? Is someone else involved that you're aware of?
I keep thinking about this character, but that's just been always in the back of my head since it started. I mean, other than that.
Well, I just to let you know, I just got pulled into this morning, so I don't have all of the details.
Okay. Well, there's a very creepy kid.
So now remember, here we go with the plan B, right? Oh, Mr. and Mrs. Car Guy, I see you guys up in here. Good morning, Pippi Strong, Dee. It's nice to see you. Grace, good morning, Betty. Just wanted to stop in and tell you how much I admire you. Oh, thank you. God bless you. God bless you for that. And all the other people that are coming in, please don't forget to hit that thumbs up button for me. I'd greatly appreciate it. And I haven't even seen over here. That's Aletha, 6 months. We have Obsessed with True Crime, 7 months. Definitely a lot longer, LOL. And I know that was with something I was talking about at that time. Oh, GE girl, it's nice to see you, Mom First. All reminding us, don't forget to hit that thumbs up. Thank you. Thank you. I found out one of my cats I thought was male as a kitten is a female. More kittens. Ugh. Well, Pippi, I hate to tell you this, but there's a very distinct way of being able to tell. You kind of got to turn them over and pull their tail up, okay? If it's got two little beans there, it's a boy. If the beans are missing, it's a girl. Just thought I'd throw that out there. They have little tiny peanuts back there. But we love you. Don't worry. I'm sure this mistake will never happen again. Once you gotta walk the hard way, you learn. You check up under the tail. I know it's a little nosy. Oh, good gracious, that's got me cracking up. Well, congratulations on the little fur balls, the soon-to-be fur balls. We've got an animal-friendly chat, so if somebody's in your area and wants to take a pretty little precious kitten off your hands, I'm sure we can help with that. Oh, that's so sweet, though. That was a cute little story. Thank you for making me chuckle, Pippi. But oh yeah, getting back to the creepy kid. Let me go back a couple seconds. What we find out in many of these cases, more than not, I thought it was twin boys. Hello, treated it. Well, like I said, once that happens you become a master of cats. What we're going to see here is them blaming somebody. Remember how in the case of Sebastian Wayne Drake Rogers, the unscrupulous PI started targeting other people targeting other people. And I just heard just now that somebody's saying that TL might be involved and her car might be there. I don't believe any of that. I don't believe any of that. I just want to throw that out there. If anybody's passing that around, don't listen to it. I find it, and it's not that me and TL's relationship is good or even communicating to one another or anything like that. But I'm just one of these people that it's either true or isn't true. It doesn't matter my like or dislike for anyone, and I just don't believe it. I don't believe this lady knew these people prior to this, but would she have been involved like that? I don't believe it. I don't believe it. And anybody that says otherwise is an idiot, in my opinion. It's somebody talking and smearing somebody, and I don't get down like that. So at the end of the day, I don't believe Terry Lynn was involved in anything to do with Sebastian Wayne Drake Rogers' case.
Let you know, I just got pulled into this morning, so I don't have all of the details.
Okay, well,
anything.
there's a very creepy kid who likes to freak women out. Like, I have a friend named, he's tried to talk to her, and he kind of stalked her for a minute, and then she's like, leave me alone, and he left her alone. But he also did it to Kaitlyn. He's done it to a few other people, and I keep thinking, why aren't we talking to him?
Mm-hmm. You were there at what time? This was Friday night?
Friday night, I was there from around 11:30. I left at around 11:30
p.m.
Yes.
Okay.
And then I went straight to a friend's house, Jake. And then I went straight from Jake's to my house. And on the way from Jake's to my house, I was thinking maybe I should go over there and surprise her.
Okay, let's listen to that monstrosity of an explanation all over again. He's talking about where you were the night that she disappeared.
Why aren't we talking to him?
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
you were there at what time? This was Friday night?
Friday night, I was there from around 11:30. I left at around 11:30
p.m.
Yes.
Okay.
And then I went straight to a friend's house.
Why would he leave his girlfriend? Now, mind you, there was 3 people at the house. Let me just give you some context on this, okay? There were 3 people in the house. I have to assume that the girl that left, Kaitlyn's friend that was there with her and her fiance, she ended up leaving to go to a party. Now, why would they not all 3 go to that party if he's going to leave and go to a friend's house and leave his fiance home alone on a Friday night at 11:30? That to me just doesn't make sense. I'm very interested in finding out, which I haven't heard the interview of the friend that was in the house, right? So I don't know what that aspect is going to turn up because I haven't watched it yet, or if it's even available to the public. But let's process his statement so far. He left there at 11:30 on a Friday night. That doesn't make sense. Why would he leave his girlfriend on a Friday night? He's probably there because it's a weekend so they can hang out. And her friend went to a party without her or him, which implies that they want some alone time and to hang out by themselves. So why would he get up and leave shortly after the friend left to go to another friend's house without his fiance on a Friday night? That tells me something is not right. It doesn't add up to me because I know young love, I know boyfriend and girlfriends on the weekends, they want to be together, especially if they're not living together. That's their time that they get to kind of play house, right? So this whole thing, in my mind, is it believable? Yes, it could be believable. But when you break it down and think about behaviors, especially a relationship, they've been together for 5 years, they've been engaged for a year, they do not live together, you would assume that they would still, on the weekends, be together if that's their weekends that they have off. But he chose not to be with her. At 11:30, he chose to go hang out with a bud. That would piss me off as a woman, right? You just made me cancel my plans to go to a party with my girlfriend for you to leave me and go hang out with your friends. Wouldn't that be what you would think? That'd be what I would think. So let's keep going. Hey, Cassie, did I say hi to you? I'm not sure if I did.
Jake. And then I went straight from Jake's to my house. And on the way from Jake's to my house, I was thinking maybe I should go over there and surprise her.
Surprise her? For what? Surprise her for what? He was at the house with her friend. Her friend leaves. Then he leaves short time later to go hang out with a friend. And then he wants to go back and surprise her? Doesn't that sound like they had a fight and he chose to leave and wanted to come back and surprise her? Like this statement doesn't make sense. Why am I pointing this out? Because we listen to statements that don't make sense all the time, that don't logically make sense. So let's keep listening.
And then I just didn't. And then I went to my house and just sat and watched TV. And I mean, my stepsister was in the room across the hall. My parents are in the room right next to my room. I sat in my house and I watched TV. Okay. And then I went to bed.
So, again, different story, different statements, but behavior's the same. Home alone. Well, he says he's got a sister and stuff, but he went into his room, was just watching. Why would he leave his girlfriend to go home and sit in front of a TV? And you notice that he had to say he was going to a friend's house, right? He was going to a friend's house. All of this stuff is time that he could find a way to do something. We're going to find out where she was located here in just a second. Let's keep listening.
In the first 2 weeks of the investigation alone, investigators interviewed over 70 people. They're also able to corroborate some of Carter's alibi, like the fact he was at least with Markham that night.
So they're corroborating some of his alibi. That's important because they stressed some. And we know that he was with her because there was a friend at the house that saw him with her.
For over a year, investigators keep the little information they have close to the vest. And the public begins to wonder if Kaitlyn Markham's case is going cold.
And we have that going on right now in the Sebastian Wayne Drake Rogers case. That this is being kept so close. Are we going to be waiting 10 years, a decade, for justice in the Sebastian Wayne Drake Rogers case? I don't know. Are we going to be waiting 10 years? It's possible. It's possible.
Little do they know that behind the scenes, the investigation is heating up. Detectives study Markham's phone records and see that some of her last messages are between her and Carter. His phone number is confirmed, but the records in 2011 don't include any actual texts. By the time detectives get access to Carter's phone to verify the contents of those messages, they notice some of the texts are now missing. Specifically, messages sent between 7:53 p.m. and 11:36 p.m. on Saturday, August 13th.
Interesting. Deleting stuff. Didn't we hear that law enforcement in the Sebastian Wayne Drake Rogers case was interesting because there was no data, or their data was clean on their internet?
The exact time frame Carter and Markham were together before she disappeared.
So why would they be having text messages between themselves the exact time that they were together? I mean, the only time I send and I got to be honest with you, I do this quite often when I'm over at my best friend's house. She'll be on her phone, I'll be on my phone. You know, we're looking at stuff. It's just because we're just sitting there chilling. You know, it's like being home in part. And when I catch her doing that and me doing that at the same time, where we're in our phones and ignoring each other, I'll send her a text and I'll say, "I can see you. I know what you're wearing." And it'll make us chuckle because it makes us realize we're both in our phones too much and get off our damn phones, right? So, but it's only for a joke. It's not conversations. It's not several text messages. It's one, you know, where I say something like that and she'll send me an emoji with a middle finger or something. So this is pretty interesting. And I'm kind of shocked that back in 2011, the data didn't include text messages. I guarantee they include them now. We have proof of that in the Alec Murdaugh case, right? The Alec Murdaugh case is another case we covered in depth. I was behind I got a front row view behind the gates, the dog kennels, everything. I was out there at the just about every single case that have been gone to trial or was hearing at the courts. We were there, including his murder trial. We watched it unfold. The Becky Hill saga. We watched it unfold. The auction. We watched it unfold. We were front and center on that case, and that case has a lot of information, especially in the court hearing, of what law enforcement, specifically the FBI, can do in cases for the cell tower data, the steps. They got down to the microscopic movements of Alec Murdaugh. The microscopic movements. Like he at this time, he did 129 steps. They had it down to his steps, y'all. That's how important that data is, right? And when you have crap infrastructure, you cause a lot of problems for law enforcement. Just my opinion.
Okay, where did you see her last?
I saw her at like 12 o'clock last night. She stays in a house by herself.
Where was she?
And the original call said 12 o'clock that he left. You know, remember how I just said that new NBC article that just came out? And we realized that Miss Proudfoot shaved an hour off of her timeline. Well, this guy here shaved 30 minutes off of his timeline, which is interesting because we heard him in that interrogation. Well, this is his 911 call, and he says he left at midnight. This midnight number really does resonate in a lot of cases. I will tell you, I think it's like the shut off. Like I left at midnight. I went to sleep at midnight. I was asleep at midnight. Everything happens at midnight. So if you guys want to know, stay home at midnight, okay? Be back home before midnight. It seems like when all the crazy story starts coming out.
Or she disappeared.
Okay, where did you see her last?
I saw her at like 12 o'clock last night. She stays in a house by herself.
Where was she at midnight last night when you left?
She was at her house. She was going to bed.
Carter specifically told the dispatcher he saw Markham at midnight, not that he heard from her. Despite his suspicious storyline, Carter is extremely cooperative with investigators.
I want you guys to read that. It said Saturday, August 13th, 2021, between 7:53 and 11:36, Carter and Markham exchanged text messages, plural. Who is sitting in the house with someone texting them? Have you guys, like I said, outside of the one thing, raise your hand or put a 1 in the chat. Do you guys sit in a house and text people that you're sitting in a house with? If you do, put a 1 in the chat. If you do not, put a 2 in the chat. I want to gauge the audience on this question. I said, even Cinderella had, what did it say? How to get home before midnight. I know. Okay, so some people, we got a couple people that text people while they're in the house. You guys text people like when you go to visit somebody. Let me change this. Not your children that live with you or something like that. I'm talking about you going and visiting somebody. Remember, they're visiting each other. They don't live in the house with each other. They visit each other. At the time that you're visiting your friend, are you texting them for the whole time you're there? Because he's saying he was there at 7:53 to 11:36 visiting, and he's texting, and they have these text exchanges for several hours. I know people do it like if you live with somebody and you have a house and you want your kids to clean up, and you instead of hollering up the stairs, you text them, did you clean your room? I understand all that. But visiting, like you're going to see your BFF, you're going to be texting her, because that's basically what it is. He's her BFF. They're engaged. They're about to be married. Okay. We still have some people that say that they text when they're there, and that's fine. I just want to gauge the ability of that. So we do have some, I don't want to say it's 50-50, but yeah, there's a lot more people that text people in their house than I would presume. I'm just saying. You guys are crazy. Let me tell you something for you ones. You guys need to be a little more social. I'm just saying. Get off the damn phone. Visit.
Dispatcher, he saw Markham at midnight, not that he heard from her. Despite his suspicious storyline, Carter is extremely cooperative with investigators.
And then you said that you went to Kaitlyn's. I drove there and walked up to her door, knocked around 7:30, 8 o'clock. She let me in and we watched TV.
Mm-hmm.
When you go to her house, do you typically, if she's home, do you knock on the door? Do you just go in? I know you have a key.
It's kind of a toss-up.
Okay.
Sometimes I just walk in if she knows I'm going to be there at that time, and if she doesn't, I knock.
Okay.
She was on her computer like pretty much the majority of the time.
So it sounds like she didn't know he was coming over based on that statement, right? Let's listen to this. Let's listen to this and see if it makes sense. So he's saying the time that they're texting, he's already at the house. But does this, listen to what he states, because these are the inconsistent statements, even though they're not the same inconsistent statements as we've heard. They're still inconsistent statements that make no sense, such as like a 3-hour call, right? That's no longer a 3-hour call. Now it sounds like it was an hour and 15 minutes, according to the newest NBC report, or interview that they had with the mom and the stepfather.
There and walked up to her door, knocked around 7:30, 8 o'clock. She let me in and we watched TV.
Mm-hmm.
When you go to her house, do you typically, if she's home, do you knock on the door?
Listen to his answer. Analyze it.
Do you just go in? I know you have a key.
He's got a key. So why would he be knocking? He's going to explain it.
It's kind of a toss-up.
Okay.
Sometimes I just walk in if she knows I'm going to be there.
There. Sometimes I walk in if she knows I'm going to be there. And then I stopped it before he says at that time. But wouldn't that imply that she didn't know he was coming?
At that time, and she doesn't, I knock.
Okay.
She was on her computer like pretty much the majority of the time. I was there too.
Okay. Mm-hmm. All right. When you guys are all
so it sounds to me like she's ignoring him. No? It sounds like he came there unannounced. She had a friend there. And she's on the computer almost the entire time he's there. There's something that he wasn't saying at this point, and I'd have to think that law enforcement was picking up on it.
all sitting there and you're talking and everything like that. Were the three of you watching Batman, or was Batman just you and Kaitlyn beforehand?
Batman had started before I got there.
Okay.
So Brad showed up after I got there. And we were just kind of watching it kind of in the side view. And she started to get on her computer. And then showed up. And then we were talking. And then all of a sudden something in Batman caught her eye. And we're just like kind of watching it for a minute. And then we get back to talking. And that's how it kind of...
When you're saying we're talking, are all three of you talking? Or
mostly just me.
If it's true he arrived at
So they redacted mostly me and so. That means that it seemed like Kaitlyn was fully removed from that conversation. He's basically saying he showed up unannounced. He's there. She's playing on the computer. A friend shows up, and him and the friend were the ones talking. It sounds like she was completely... Just on this statement alone, sounds like there was something going on here, an underlying tiff, so to
Markham's
speak.
townhome between 7:30 and 8 p.m. Detectives find it strange that the couple was still messaging at 7:53 p.m., especially because he states he was mostly talking to their friend.
I agree, Aries.
The last text sent from Markham's phone at 11:36 p.m. isn't lining up with what Carter says happened later either.
You are driving to Jake's house.
Mm-hmm.
How far of a drive is it typically from Jake's? I kind of have an idea in my head, but how
I'd
long would
say
it take you to get
between 15, 20 minutes,
there?
if that.
Are you shooting up?
The way I go is I take river.
Notice another thing about him. Look at when he's answering the questions, look at his head. He's not making eye contact. This is important because we have to analyze people that are speaking. Whenever I speak to somebody, I'm an eyeball-to-eyeball person. I like to look people in their eyes. When I talk to them, I look them directly in their eyes. I don't know why I do that, but that's just how I do it. I don't like when people don't make eye contact with me when they're speaking. There's something about the lack of eye contact that raises problems, even in a normal conversation. When I'm just talking to somebody and they're not making eye contact, or they looking down or something like that, I'm constantly thinking, what's going on? Either there's a chip on their shoulder, or, if it's a friend and they're not making eye contact, I know something's going on in their life, and we see this more times than not in these types of cases where somebody's talking, but they're always looking down. They won't look at somebody in their eye. A detective. That is critical to me. Why is he not making eye contact?
Are you shooting up?
Watch him look up.
The way I go is I take river.
Whenever he's telling the truth, look how he did. He knew exactly how he made it to Jake's. And as soon as he talked about something he was familiar with and knew without a doubt, he lifts his face up and looks them in their eyes to tell them what direction he would go to Jake's.
And then I get onto what's that? Right off the river, literally. And then I go on to 2nd Street.
Okay.
I take 2nd Street all the way down to Race towards the end.
Okay. So if we're guessing about how long did that take, do you think, to get there?
I want to say between 15 and 20 minutes, but sometimes, depending on how fast you go.
Well,
so it could be a little sooner,
Okay. Okay. While you're driving.
Not 3 hours and 37 minutes from doorstep to doorstep. He wasn't that specific.
And what are you doing? Are you texting? Are you talking? What are you thinking about? What's going on with you? You got 15, 20 minutes.
Okay, you see this. This is them building the timeline, okay? They're trying to get his statement and close the timeline, because once makes his statement and tells them, this is what I've done, now when they start asking him tougher questions and he starts changing it, people are going to know, the investigators are going to know that he's backfilling. And you don't want a situation where you're backfilling. When law enforcement asks you for your timeline, most people can provide a timeline. Is there going to be time off here or there? Yes, there is. There's going to be a minute here and a minute there, but you don't have a gaping area of time that is inconsistent with your statement. Okay? Hey, Robin, it's nice to see you. Good Sunday morning. Don't forget to hit that like button. Thank you, my love. I appreciate that.
I know I zoned out.
I just was listening to music. I didn't have any text messages, I don't think.
He just said they were texting back and forth to 11:38. He said he left there at 11:30. Clearly, there were 8 minutes of text somewhere. So again, these are the inconsistencies that they're going to be trying to use, and they're collecting all of this information. And this is further information on how I think people misunderstand what an interrogation really looks like, because we watch the interrogations on, the big screen. The interrogations are not like that. Okay? Interrogations are very calm. Why are they so calm? Because they don't want these people invoking their right to counsel. They want to extract as much information as possible. Do you think you're going to be able to do that if you're beating your hands on the desk and terrifying the person? No. You want them to think that they're believing what's coming out of their mouth. They want to convey that they understand. They want to be this person's friend, right? Because when you have a friend, friends talk to you about stuff, no? So this whole good cop, bad cop, yeah, there's a time and place for that, and it does happen at times. But the majority times than not, this is the type of interrogation you're going to have right here. And they don't need to scream. They just need to be direct.
I don't really remember specifically the drive,
Okay. But nothing that, like I said, nothing that's sticking out, and nothing that you're
No, because
having any kind of conversation.
after I had burnt the documents, I had texted Kaitlyn.
After I burned the documents? After I burned the documents? I'm curious to find out what these documents that were burned. I'm curious to find out what documents that were burned. And there's something else that came up today. Did I pull that? Hold on. Let me make sure. Did I pull that? Yeah, I did. Okay, we're going to be talking about something. You're going to want to stay to the end because we've got something very specific that is a new revelation. I don't know whether it's true. I have not been able to corroborate it, but it definitely may explain something that happened within that first 8 days of Sebastian's search. So we'll get to that here shortly.
Like I said, nothing that's sticking out, and nothing that you're
because
having any kind of conversation.
After I had burnt the documents, I had texted Kaitlyn they're burned, and that was, as far as I can remember, the first text message of the night since I left Kaitlyn.
Carter claims his fiancée asked him to burn a bag of personal and financial documents that night in preparation for their move to Colorado. She didn't want to take them, but worried someone might end up with their personal information if she threw them away. Carter agreed to get rid of them. But to investigators, that seemed like a strange bullet point to add to your late night to-do list.
Exactly. Like a 3-hour conversation or going to bed. I wonder if they asked what time they, in the Sebastian Wayne Drake Rogers case, what time they typically go to bed. I find it very unlikely that somebody with children are going to bed at midnight to be up in 6 hours. Most people need a full 8 hours of sleep. Most people get a full 8 hours of sleep. Very few people are like me and sleep 6 hours a night, okay? I can tell you more times than not, we do have a lot of insomnias in here. I know that for a fact because half of my mod squad are insomniacs. They are up, they are up at all weird hours working, right? So they're usually working while I'm sleeping, and when I go live, they probably go to sleep after my live. I don't know. I didn't realize I had as many insomniacs on the team as we do, but we do. I can guarantee it. I know for a fact. But it seems like an odd thing to do, and there's a lot of odd things in the Sebastian Wayne Drake Rogers case that are oddities. Who is worrying about burning something at midnight? Just like who is worried about being on a call for 3 hours on a Sunday night? It seems like that call would have happened on a Saturday night or a Friday night, but not on a Sunday night right before the new week begins. It's just strange. It's strange. To me, it's strange.
In other words, Carter claims he left Markham's townhome at around 11:30, drove 15 to 20 minutes into Hamilton County, started a fire, burned a large bag of documents for his fiancée, and sent her a text, all by 11:36 p.m. Detectives wonder if Carter deleted messages between him and Markham to tidy up his timeline.
I have individual messages, single messages that are deleted within people.
I mean, maybe it does the auto delete. Maybe if I have so many messages, it just deletes the oldest message. I really have no idea because I did not go in and delete individual messages.
Well, I can tell you that that's not true because it's just not true. Does anybody have auto delete on their phones? I didn't even know that was an option. Is that an option? Because I don't know if that does that to my phone or anybody else's. Who worries about where the dogs are when they aren't home? I think that's a good question. Someone on the rug or doing something nefarious. Well, didn't they find... I don't think they found the missing text because at that time, in 2011, one of the caveats is that they did not have text messages as part of the data. And now they do. You have to manually do it. Okay. Yeah, because I'm unsure.
Yes, again, with Kaitlyn, which is confusing then, is in between the two downloads is, in the first download, there's one message between the two of you. And I know, like I said, I know we've talked about some of this before. There's one message from Kaitlyn. But then when we download it again, it's gone. That whole one message is gone.
I mean, I'm not a phone mastermind. I don't really know anything beyond what a normal person would know about a smartphone. So, and honestly, I don't even think I know how to delete a single message. I mean, as far as I know, the only way to delete a message is to delete the whole thread. I've never gone through and deleted individual messages.
John, what's really important about this is that you don't really delete anything before or after, but during the time period, you delete a whole bunch of stuff.
Wow. Interesting. It makes you wonder how many of our cases have these deleted messages that need to still be retrieved. Ellie has the capacity to deep dive his phone on forensics, even deleted text message. That's correct. But we have to remember that this was 14 years ago. Is that right? I think 14 years ago. So the technology 14 years ago and the capabilities of the equipment 14 years ago might not have been up there, but I don't know. They're saying that back then the data did not come over from the cell phone companies. They now do, but back then, yeah. The only reason why I'm bringing this case up is because there's a lot of details in here that I think are important for the audience to hear, because it helps us identify deception quicker. It helps us realize that people can lie to us with a straight face and be believable. And people need to understand people that have everything to lose will lie. They will lie. And they've got to come up with believable explanations to why they did some weird stuff. And they're saying, wait a minute. Why is she the only one that messages are being deleted? Why is there no messages deleted before, no messages deleted after, but all these messages in this specific area have been deleted? Basically, they're removing the ability of him saying they auto-deleted, because if they auto-deleted, other messages would have also been auto-deleted, no? So, yeah, kind of like Steven Stern, I accidentally did a factory reset. I went through the process to see what goes into it. I didn't factory reset my phone, but I went through the process to find it. And you've got to click. I didn't click the last one. My phone, I didn't, because good God, that would be detrimental to me. But I did go through the process of what it goes into a factory reset. And you actually have to work to factory reset your phone. Like they put up there, are you sure? Are you sure? Are you sure? Like at least 3 times. Yeah, dang, VA, 3 times. Satan Stearns accidentally reset 3 times. Oh my goodness. Yeah, and there's no way. We all know, if you don't know what goes into it, let me tell you, don't do it. But there's an option to factory reset your phone. It's basically like taking your phone back to the way you got it when you pulled out. He's special. When you pulled out pulled it out of the box for the very first time. That's basically what the factory reset does. You got to set up all your apps. You got to set up your phone again. You got to do all of that stuff as if you bought it brand new and you open the box for the first time. That's what the factory reset does. But when you do that, they are so worried because people, they don't want to make it an accident where you factory reset your phone. That would be detrimental to anybody's life. So you got to keep going through a gatekeeper of yes, I really want to take this action. Yes, I really want to take this action before you can ever factory delete your phone. You've got to go through hoops to factory, it's not just hitting one button and boom, it's done. They make sure that you want to factory reset your phone. And so I don't see how that could be accidental in any way, stretch of the imagination.
I don't know. I really don't. I'm sorry.
I mean, if
I did not, I had nothing to hide from either one of you. I told you about all the drugs. I told you about all the things that I did. So deleting
drugs. What do I tell you guys are 3 of the biggest reasons that make a good person a POS. And it's a combination of 3 things. It's a singular one of these, or all 3, or combination. And that is substance abuse, alcohol abuse, and violence in the home, domestic violence. It could be one of those things. It could be a combination, or it could be all 3. Okay? That is what makes a normal person do things normal people won't do. Why? Because it directly affects your brain. It directly reflects your brain.
Anything did not matter to me. I wasn't deleting anything individually. I wasn't deleting anything on purpose or, whatever. I don't know how that occurred. I don't understand it myself. I promise.
Were you, after you left the police department here, let's Sunday, let's say I know we're going back in time, but that was a Sunday, and you left here. Did you start looking through your phone and looking back through your messages with her? Anything like that?
I looked at them occasionally, after the fact, of course.
I don't believe that, because if you recall in that NBC statement that I just read, he said he was still calling her phone, hoping she would pick up. So you're telling me if you are calling her phone regularly just to see if she picks up, that you're not going to read the text messages? You're never going to go back to the text messages you had with your fiance before she left? If you are that, want her that bad, it seems like you would be reading those daily. You would be, memorializing her daily. I mean, if you're picking up the phone to call her phone on a daily basis, wouldn't you be looking at those text messages? That's why I don't believe this statement at all.
I wanted to see our conversations and things like that, but, a lot of times it just made me cry. And all I did was, just read them and get really sad. And
so if it makes you so sad, why would you be picking up the phone every day, calling her on a daily basis? If it makes you sad, if you can't read her text messages, what is hearing her voice do to him, right?
A lot of time, most of the time I just spent in my room being sad and crying.
As sad as Carter says he was, he doesn't seem to show any emotion in front of investigators. And he's
no emotion. You notice that they always look at the emotion of a subject, suspect, or person of interest. Do you guys notice that? The only people telling us that people act differently under certain stresses are defense attorneys. Okay? And then these hate channels pick it up. Well, people grieve differently. Well, if that's the case, then why does law enforcement focus on the lack of emotion? Hold on, I think I'm having some technical. Let me make sure everything's set up here. Shouldn't have some technical issues. Give me just a second. There's something going on behind my scenes here. Give me just a second. I don't like when things are going on behind the scenes. It's always my sound, and I don't know why. It's always somewhere in my sound settings. Okay, let's see. Hopefully that fixes it. So again, it just does not make sense. But again, we all look at the how urgent somebody is in finding their loved one. And this person's behavior mimics a lot of what we've seen in the Sebastian Rogers case.
Being sad and crying.
As sad as Carter says he was, he doesn't seem to show any emotion in front of investigators. And he still can't explain the missing messages. But without a confession or physical evidence, investigators are at somewhat of a standstill. Until April of 2013.
Now we're getting to the information. So this is where we're going to learn a little bit more about what happened in 2013.
About 20 miles west of Markham's townhome in Fairfield, an Indiana man is searching for scrap metal in a wooded area near Big Cedar Creek when he stumbles upon something he'll never forget. A human jawbone. After a little looking around, the man realizes he's not looking at one bone, but nearly an entire skeleton, including a human skull wrapped inside a plastic grocery bag.
Plastic grocery bag.
Other than a few clumps of brown hair, he can tell the remains are completely decomposed. He calls law enforcement, and a team of investigators are able to recover 95% of the body. But whose body is it? The remains are found in Cedar Grove, Indiana, a town 0.2 of a mile wide. It had a population of fewer than 160 people in 2012. If someone local was missing, surely the police would know about it. But no one was missing in Cedar Grove. That leaves investigators to try to connect the remains to missing people in surrounding areas, like Fairfield. After just a few days, the skeletal remains are confirmed to belong to almost 22-year-old Kaitlyn Markham. Even with this new discovery, the case is far from open and shut. The fact that the remains are discovered across state lines makes the investigation all the more difficult.
You guys hear that? State lines. Why? Because that's when the feds have to take over. Once you have interstate crime from one state to another, it's out of the jurisdiction. Now, granted, Indiana's will have to do the investigation there. You got the FBI involved because they have to be involved. Then you've got the actual crime scene, and then you have another, where the body was dumped. So we have all these different officers and police in different areas. One in Indiana, one in the other state. I can't remember what state she's from. Hold on a second. Oh, is this Missouri? Hold on. Why can't I? Doesn't say on here what state. I can't remember what state this is from. Ohio. So you got Ohio is where I think she was from. That's where he was convicted at.
The bones are passed back and forth for testing between Hamilton County, Ohio, and where they were discovered in Franklin County, Indiana.
So there you go, Ohio and Indiana. And then you have the FBI that has to be the liaison.
Evidence, like items found in Kaitlyn's home, is held by Fairfield police. The coroner quickly rules Markham's death a homicide, but her family, friends, and the public wouldn't learn the details for some time. Not until someone comes clean about what really happened the weekend Kaitlyn Markham disappeared.
Now remember, she was around two people before her disappearance. She was around her friend that came over after her boyfriend that was unannounced, or fiance that was unannounced, came over. It seemed like she was disengaged. It seems like something was going on that was unwritten and unspoken in this, and it kind of feels the same way that there's something that went on that's unwritten and unspoken in the Sebastian Wayne Drake Rogers case. But I feel like this, again, they refused. Indiana and Ohio refused to do anything with the case without the body, and she went without justice for a decade. They found her in 2013, and it still didn't help them get any closer to putting the person behind bars.
You didn't spend the night with her up Friday night?
I don't think so.
And then Saturday. Tell me.
I don't remember if it was Friday or Saturday night that we were right there.
Well, thank you.
He doesn't remember now. Now, mind you, this is 2 years later, and the problem with lies is you can't remember what lies you told them. When it's 2 years later, you can't remember what lies you have said. Pretty much similar to the newest article coming out. The statements that were made to us were made almost a year ago. And they have been inconsistent even a year ago. But now that people drop off the face of the earth and then pop up a year later, kind of like Chris and Katie, now you have two additional stories as what happened. Now we have a neighbor that's now being a creep and parking their car down the road and crossing through common areas to take another neighbor's garbage out. Sounds a little crazy, right? And now we're also learning that Katie got in her car and was driving to the school before she ever even called her husband, and before the three-way call. Yet we see her in her neighborhood some 8 seconds before that call was made. It just doesn't make sense. They forget. They forget the lies. We do not. They've got to remember a million lies. We don't. We get to remember what they said. It's a lot easier for us than somebody that's lying.
If it was If it was Saturday, then that is the night that she went missing.
I'm pretty sure then it was Friday.
Okay.
So then Saturday night.
What'd you do Saturday, if you remember?
We pretty much, she had some homework and stuff to do, so she was on her computer, typing away. And
you notice 2 years later, he still has no emotion that she hasn't been found. She's now deceased. He knows what happened to her. Okay, I want you guys to understand his body language here. At this juncture, he knows exactly what happened to his girlfriend, his fiancée, a woman he was with for 5 years dating and a year as a fiancée. 6 years being with this woman and in this woman's life, wanting to marry her, have children with her. He now knows that she was murdered. And look at his behavior. It's the same behavior as he was exhibiting before he knew what happened. He doesn't seem very bothered. He doesn't seem like he didn't know she was dead or what happened to her. He's calm, cool, and collected. This is not the proper behavior of learning of someone you loved being murdered. I would be a blubbering mess. A blubbering mess. These are exhibiting classics. That's why I try to tell people, quit listening to the defense attorneys about these people, showing grief differently. You still have to show grief. Tell me what grief this man is showing. Tell me what urgency he is showing to solve his fiance's case. He's not. He can't even remember specific details. Do you honestly believe something that you have never experienced, something like this, you would remember? You would not remember the details? It should be tattooed on your brain. Do you think I will ever forget my experience in Sumner County and what I went through? Do you think my story's going to change in another 2 years? Or do you think I'm going to be as pissed off as I was in August? You don't forget details like this. I'm sorry, you just don't. This was a once-in-a-lifetime experience, right? We don't all wake up every day and find our fiancés murdered. So this is a once-in-a-lifetime experience. How many good this is not a good experience. I'm not saying it's a good experience, a horrible experience, but it's a once-in-a-lifetime. I don't anticipate, unless he's a serial, unaliver, I don't anticipate him having to deal with this again. So how can you not do or know the critical details in something that has never happened to you before and will most likely never happen to you again? This goes back to Candace Bly in the Summer Wells case when she couldn't remember specific details weeks or months after her daughter disappeared. She was also one that had no urgency. She was also one that seemed to know what happened to her daughter, but acts like she doesn't. These are important interviews, y'all. I recommend you going back to these types of interviews and start learning, because these are the bread and butter of the Bullhorn Betty show. You want to know why I'm so accurate in a lot of my reporting? It's because I'm constantly watching stuff like this. So instead of me watching stuff like this behind the scenes to get my bloods flowing and my juices going for the cases that we show on this is how I do it. Analyzing everything, analyzing behavior, analyzing statements, analyzing when they're put on, when something they're not prepared to answer is thrown at them, seeing how they react to that. That's how I learn everything that I know. It's by watching, but not watching, all these things on TV on A&E. It's by watching the real stuff. This right here, seeing real people in real hot seats trying to explain this. And look how relaxed he is. He's holding a water bottle, crossing his leg. He's comfortable. I don't know anybody that can be comfortable knowing that their fiance of a year and a relationship of 5 years would be comfortable in talking about this stuff without breaking down.
We invited our friend over, and me, her, sat and hung out. And
Who's
it was actually a friend she met at Panera.
so it was her friend, but
Yeah, but we were cool too. I mean, we sat and talked a lot and stuff like that. Let me go back a little bit again. She had to move out of her dad's house, like I said. So she was packing everything up, like getting everything ready, and she had old bills and records that she was putting together that she didn't want anymore. My mom suggested to her that she burn them. So after I was leaving her house that night, she said, I have this bag. It was an American Eagle bag full of just papers and documents and bills and stuff. So I took...
There's something more. You know, like the 3-hour conversation, this whole bag, the burning of the bag, it's an oddity. Okay? I feel like there was something in that bag that was bad. Could it have been love letters to somebody else? Could that have been, because her family talks about her being a free spirit. And the only time I hear, and it's no offense, and I'm not victim shaming or blaming, but the only time I hear free spirit when it comes to anybody, whether it's a guy or a girl, to me always implies being with people. Free spirit, not ball and chained to one person. And you guys can take that in any type of sense you want, but if you're hearing my implications, yes, I'm implying here that there may be, other partners in a degree. But every time I hear this free spirit come up, that's what, oh, hey, Sonia, good morning, love. The real me too, good morning to you too. That is the only time, you're wrong, Betty. The hen house must be a free spirit. No offense, hen house. I'm just saying what I'm sure I am wrong. I'm sure there are some different times. Don't be pecking on my butt. But that's what's implied to me, okay? I'm sorry. I'm not saying you're flapping your wings. But we're talking about a 20-something. And I think free spirit and a 20-something is much different than a free spirit. Let me ask you, hen house, maybe I shouldn't get this personal. How were you in your 20s? Don't be beating me up. Hen house is gonna be pecking my butt. I can already feel the hen. I can already feel the hen in my roost. I can already feel the hen in my roost. I feel like I feel a smack coming on from hen house. I feel a smack coming on. Touche. Okay. Well, in-house speaks. But that's just what, in all fairness, that's what I imply when I hear that. No offense, in-house. I'm not saying that it is a broad brush that I am painting, but that's what when I hear that, that's what I get. Okay. It's just what I get when people say free spirit. So, not that it's accurate. It's just my opinion, and I'm not saying you, hen house. So don't start smacking me.
She's like,
I don't want a nasty gram. Okay. Well, I had 3 children and a husband in the military. Okay, in my 20s. She's coming on. Betty, don't be saying that. I struck the chord. I'm sorry, hen house. But in all fairness, it is what I perceive when I hear that coming from family members. I just do. I'm sorry, I do. And it may not be true, but that's just how I imply it. So not to ruffle your hen feathers. Not to ruffle your hen feathers.
She said, I have this bag. It was an American Eagle bag full of just papers and documents and bills and stuff. So I took... she was like, will you take these and put them in your car and, get rid of them so that we can, so that I can get everything over to your mom's. So I took the bag, I brought it over to my friend's house who has a fire pit, put it in there, set it on fire, and
That isn't that oddity? Isn't that an oddity? The night that his girlfriend disappears or his fiance disappears, the night that he's burning papers. I'm sorry, but we don't talk about the 20s. No. That is true. That is true. Don't talk about mine. Mine were awful. Actually, I don't really remember much of mine. I think I might have had a little bit of fun. I might have had a little too much fun in my 20s. Yes, this guy, I noticed that you guys are picking up on, way too calm for the situation. He just found out his fiance that he hasn't seen is dead. You would think that he would be crying. You would think that he would be, just more emotional. Definitely not legs crossed, calm demeanor. It seems like he's going out of his way to stay calm so they don't think he is like normal people are emotional. He's showing none.
And burned him. That's what she wanted to do, and I didn't care. After that was done, I just went back inside, hung out with my friends for a while, a couple hours. It was probably there late, like early morning, like 2, 3, 4, somewhere around there. No, it was probably like 12, 1, 2.
Okay.
I went home after my friends. I watched some TV, which was like on my computer. I just like watched some, I think I watched White Collar, which is one of the shows I really like to watch. And I watched that till really early in the morning, and then I went to bed. I mean, that's kind of how my nights were.
Carter tells police that after staying up so late, he slept all day and didn't wake up until it was time to go to work at 4 p.m. Usually his fiancée would call him, tell him to wake up and stop being lazy. On August 14th, 2011, she didn't.
So we're going to I'm going to go through a couple more little things here. There's some other clips in here. Hold on a second. Let me find it. Okay.
Calling her, and finally I just get to a point where I go to my manager. I'm like, look, something's wrong. It's 7 o'clock. She should be answering. I have to go see what's going on.
That's when Carter says he drives to Markham's townhome on Dorshire Drive. He pulls in the parking lot and unlocks the door with a key.
I immediately use the key, unlock it, go in, and I start calling for her. Kaitlyn, where are you? Kaitlyn. I run upstairs. Her purse is still on her bed, and her sheets and stuff are all strewn about. There's dog crap all over the floor from her dog, who normally does not get put in her room. And her phone's not there. I just see I look at the bed, I look at her purse, I look down at the phone cord. This stuff is happening.
So he can't remember details, but he can remember these details. Isn't that familiar, how it's awfully funny that people can remember details that they want to remember, but the other details, I can't remember, blah, blah, blah. It's been so long ago. But he remembers these details with specificity. And I find that interesting because we have a boy that left a home and we don't even know what he was truly wearing over 14 months later. Nobody can still identify what shirt he went to bed with that night. But they can remember a 3-hour conversation. They can remember all the details. They can remember at 10 p.m. on the dot, there was a noise that came out of the room. They can remember all these very specific things, but they can't remember what shirt he wore. Why is the clothing still so mysterious when it comes to Sebastian's case 14 months later? When he has very limited clothing that he wears, they try to blame it on his pickiness in the feature, whatever anime feature is on or imprint is on his shirt. But after 14 months, we still don't even know what shirt he had. And I would know that every single mom in my chat right now, if their child was missing and couldn't answer a question like what shirt your child went to bed on, you would go through that room until you figured it out. How do we still not know what shirt Sebastian Rogers was making? Oh, yeah, but Chris knew exactly what, he wasn't even there. He wasn't even in the house, but knew exactly what pair of pants he was wearing. But not what shirt he was wearing? Cut it out.
Like, I'm like hyper aware because I'm like, where am I?
Despite Carter's insistence that everything was fine leading up to his fiance's disappearance, investigators have received conflicting statements from people close to Markham.
Here's the conflicting statements. Let's see what happened.
On the evening of August 12th, the Friday before she disappeared, Markham and Carter went to the Sacred Hearts Festival, a fundraiser for a local Catholic elementary school. And that's when things allegedly started to go south. The festival had games, food, drinks, and a raffle. The winner of the raffle would split the cash prize with the school, but Carter thought it would be a great way for the couple to make some extra cash for their move to Colorado.
I believe that night, correct me if I'm wrong, I guess Allie was there, her sister was there?
That particular night.
Was Allie there with some friends? Or was
I
it just,
think
or was
so,
it
but
just,
I didn't go inside.
so you stayed outside?
Yeah.
Was it one of those deals where you guys go to her townhouse and Allie's there and you guys like, well, this is not cool. I think after you guys left her townhouse, you guys went to your house.
Okay.
And you guys had, I guess you had like a little gathering of your friends. And I think you had like a little bonfire that night. I think she had to work the next day, which was going to be Saturday, the 13th. And I think you took her home, back to her townhouse.
Yeah, I probably dropped her off.
Okay. And then you went back to your house on West Iota.
Mm-hmm.
And you, at that point in time, I guess some of your friends were still there. I think it was a couple of people that were still there.
Maybe.
I think John Palmerton was one of them. There was another guy there, and I can't think of his name.
Yeah.
Maybe
Matt or something.
right.
People close to Markham tell investigators she wasn't happy the night of the festival, so she asked Carter to drive her home early. He agreed. They got into his red Ford Focus and drove to Markham's townhome, where he dropped her off. Things didn't seem to improve overnight. Both Markham and Carter seemed off that evening. According to another friend, something about Carter's demeanor seemed strange on Sunday too, the day he realized he couldn't get a hold of his fiancée and dialed 911.
Well, when I talked to Matthew, and that's 7:22 in the evening, he says you guys basically have a casual conversation. You know, he says his statement is that you pull in the driveway, you go through the house. He said he really didn't hear anything open and closing. He hears going up the steps, and then in that conversation, you just casually say, "Hey, have you seen Kaitlyn? Kaitlyn's missing. I don't know where she's at." And then they end the conversation. What happens between 7:22 and 7:30 when you get a hold of Dave's and say she's missing?
I mean, there was nothing apart from the fact that things started to not add up, that was out of place.
All right. Over time, obviously, we've talked to a bunch of people. A couple people have said, and again, I know you have said that you and your relationship with Kaitlyn was a good relationship. Right? Everybody fights in every relationship. You know that.
Yeah, and that's another thing. This whole idea that relationships you don't have arguments in and everything's hunky-dory. I think going into law enforcement and saying that is, oh, River is up in the house. Nice to see you, Riv. I don't think anybody believes that, because even the best, like I know people that have been married for 30, 40, 50 years. And I can tell you some of the stories. Now they're, lovey-dovey, been together, went through the test of time together, 40, 50 years. You're not leaving a person you've been with for 40 or 50 years, right? So these people have been through the test of time. They've went through the problems of marriage, the problems of life together. And I can guarantee you it's not pink bows and butterflies for anybody all the time. You can have the best relationship and still have disagreements. Disagreements on raising the children, disagreements on the best use of financial, household finances, whether you need this. You go through especially if you don't have money, the freaking washer breaks, right? And you're upset that you can't wash clothes. Trust me, there's going to be a little heat in the house. It's not directed as just natural heat. Doesn't mean you hate each other. It just means you're frustrated. People get frustrated. Think about children. Children are the most innocent of innocent. What do? They get upset when somebody takes their toy or uses their crayon. Okay, there's things going on in the house. So we have a perfect relationship. Anybody goes into law enforcement with that story, they're going to immediately think is BS.
I know that.
Right.
No doubt. Several people that we've talked to have said that something was up with Kaitlyn. Last week, up until saying that night, that both of you seemed a little off even. But not.
And she was stressed because of school. And when she got stressed, she was distant and things like that.
But from what everybody else is saying and what they're telling us is that she had something a whole lot deeper on her mind than just finals.
I mean, how can anyone really know that?
In fact, investigators have heard from several of Markham's friends that her relationship with Carter had been rocky.
Let me ask you. You guys would know if something's off, right? If it's your friend, right? You guys know when there's something off with me. And you guys don't even see me in the flesh. You guys see me online. You know when something's weighing on my mind. You know it by my behavior online or lack thereof, right? When I'm not online. We all know when something's not right. My best friend got me a puppy. Why? Why did she force me to have a puppy? Of all things, right? Because she knew that there was something off with me. She knew that something was off with me, and she tried to fix it, right? Because that's what we do as friends. We try to find out what's wrong, and we try to fix it. So somebody that says, how would they know? I protect my family and my friends, my personal family, my personal friends from all of the nastiness that I go through on here. So I would never tell them or talk to them about some things that are over my head because I don't want to put that stress on their back. But they know when something's not right. Oh, that's right. Melanie, thank you for being in the chat. I just want to say we also have another person that could use a lot of prayers, going through a little bit of a struggle in their personal life. And, we always like to uplift our audience members when they're in their time of need. I know Turkey Man, he's dealing with a lot. And today he's got to get up and still get put on a sermon with so much pain on his heart today, and it's sad. So we're going to button this up because church is starting in about 15 minutes and we need to get over to church and
for much longer than just the weekend of her disappearance. One friend tells law enforcement that Markham reportedly expressed feeling trapped in her engagement for 3 to 6 months before she went missing.
If she was forthcoming with you about problems she had with you, and why would she tell these other people if she had problems and not say anything to you?
I don't know. That's on her. It's a question for her. I really don't know.
A question for her, but Markham isn't here for investigators to ask. Her friends say she was deeply bothered by Carter's habitual drug use and the amount of pornography that he watched.
So they were having definitely problems. I'm sorry. Somebody, I don't know if they engaged in it together or what, but people that are around people that do substances are either going to engage in substances or they're going to get away from them. People that don't do substances don't typically hang out with a bunch of people that do. It just doesn't work that way.
Did she know you looked at porn?
Yeah. When I first got my Mac and all that stuff, and I was like, she's going to be mad at me, blah, blah, blah. She's like, I don't really care. If you got to deal with that, deal with it. And I guess to her, it was like, it was a means to an end.
Markham's close friends disagree. They tell investigators that Markham did care, especially when Carter began asking her to perform sexual acts that made her feel uncomfortable.
So we'll
bar
get past
that one
that.
of my friends worked at, and her boyfriend was just like, I'll kick his ass, I'll beat his ass, I know he did something, blah blah blah, and just kept saying. And my friend was like egging him on, like, oh really, tell me more about it and all this stuff. And I don't know, that just seems suspicious to me.
In nearly every conversation with law enforcement, Carter mentions someone he finds suspicious. He believes...
And that is important because aren't we dealing with the same thing right now in another case where the neighbor or son did it, or this child just walked out of the home and somebody must have snatched him, right? Somebody had to have snatched a boy that tried to run away from home. It doesn't make sense. And they're always trying to point the finger at someone else. Very interesting.
Fairfield police hindered with some crucial mistakes in the days following his daughter's disappearance. Butler County agrees to get involved, and to the public's surprise, the Fairfield Police Department welcomes the agency who is willing to help them solve the case that has been sitting on their desk for the last 4 years.
So as you can see, law enforcement does not really entertain help until many years have passed. This does not look, granted, these are two totally different states. One's Ohio, one's Indiana that is associated with this case. But I have to think that that this is kind of where we may be.
Less than a year later, Butler County makes a long-awaited announcement. Finally, they have a strong person of interest in Kaitlyn Markham's murder case. But it would take another 6 years for law enforcement to compile enough evidence to make an arrest.
Another 6 years to compile enough evidence for an arrest. You want to know why? Because at the end of the day, they probably have one investigator on it. Okay? Because when we have a major case in some of these counties, they have XYZ budget. That's it. And at the end of the day, they cannot bankrupt the sheriff over one case. And that's the reality of what we're dealing with. Tennessee, by far, 6 years. And that's after. Now, this is after they've identified a suspect, okay? 6 more years to compile enough evidence to bring that suspect to... This took almost a decade before this guy was brought to justice. And he only received 3 years.
And the person in handcuffs isn't who anyone thought it would be. On February 7th, 2023, 35-year-old Jonathan Palmerton is the first person to be arrested in connection with Kaitlyn Markham's murder. He's charged with felony perjury, meaning police have reason to believe he knowingly made a false statement under oath or affirmation.
Now, that was the friend of, you've got it, her fiance.
But who is Jonathan Palmerton, and why would police interview him to begin with? In 2011, 22-year-old Palmerton was part of John Carter's close circle of friends. Little is known about the details of the alleged dishonesty that put him in handcuffs, but small pieces of information eventually come to light. Based on witness statements, police believe Palmerton was involved, or at least in some way, in Markham's disappearance and murder. Palmerton's arrest comes after investigators execute 2 search warrants, one on Palmerton's 2011 residence in Fairfield, and the other on the property where John Carter lived in 2011, his mother's house, located less than half a mile from Markham's townhome on Dorshire Drive. The searches just don't tie Palmerton to the case, but they also confirm witness statements that contradict the story Carter has been telling police for the last decade.
Saturday night, August 13th, you go to your party with Every Street, burn the documents, and you come back to the house. 2 people go walking down the street, and at approximately between what they say is 1:30, 2 o'clock in the morning, they see, or they hear 2 cars coming, and they are juveniles at the time. They hide behind a tree, some evergreens that were in the area. They see 2 cars pull up, and the 2 cars, the lights are blacked out, and they see a red Ford Focus pull into the driveway at your residence, and they see a darker blue 4-door sedan right behind the Ford Focus. The red Ford Focus pulls into the driveway. Garage door opens up. They see the car pull into the garage. Garage door shuts. The blue car stays out on the street. Between 5 and 15 minutes later, garage door pulls back open. Car pulls back out. Both cars are still blacked out. And they go back the same way they coming down West Scioto. And they said they are positive what they seen that night.
The witnesses described the driver of the blue sedan as a male with a messy beard and hair down to his shoulders. The witness's statement also helps investigators create a timeline to compare with data from Carter's computer. At 1:39 a.m., Carter's computer shows that he turned on Season 2, Episode 12 of White Collar. Over the next 2.5 hours, approximately, 2 more episodes play out. Episode 13, titled Countermeasures. Ironic. The computer data proves that the episodes played, but not that Carter watched them. Law enforcement has reason to speculate Carter might have turned on the show to create an alibi while his friend waited outside in the blue sedan.
Interesting. Creating an alibi. This is the last and final comment we're going to make on this show. Is he went in his home and turned on the computer to autoplay to have the appearance that he was there watching the video or the movie. And in the case of Sebastian Wayne Drake Rogers, we have a mom and a stepfather that were on a call at a weird time of night for an unreasonable amount of time before they have to go to bed to wake up and just several hours later to go to work and to get a child up to go to school. Again, something is a little hinky when it comes to these stories and creating the alibi. So I'm going to stop here. We're going to find another video, another past case. We're going to start identifying these very, very crucial and critical behaviors that we see over and over and over again in the case of, in our cases that we cover, because people lie. People lie to law enforcement. By their lies, it drags the case out. It drags the case out. Let me see if I can find, where is the ending? Here it is.
11 years, 7 months, and 11 days
Almost 12
after
years.
Kaitlyn Markham was last seen.
Almost 12 years.
The world sees John Carter the way many have always pictured him, in handcuffs.
You're welcome, sir.
Greatly appreciate it.
Happy to help.
Oh, you want this? Yeah.
You want the watch too?
Yeah.
Let's hook to it.
Forest Park.
You got nothing else on yet? Ready like that? Nothing in your drawer? No.
Actually, one more night.
Go up first.
So you guys taking the fourth part? I'm not sure what we're doing with him yet. We'll find out here. Sorry.
Footage of Carter in the backseat of a police cruiser quickly begins to circulate on social media and in the news cycle. After more than 10 years, Kaitlyn Markham's family finally gets their first glimpse of justice. Law enforcement also begins to release the long-awaited details of Markham's death. Findings from the University of Indianapolis Archaeology and Forensics Laboratory show an incised wound on Markham's left wrist bone. The injury is unlikely to be her cause of death. Instead, it indicates her body might have been dismembered. Testing also reveals that examiners found very little decomposition fluid or tissue on Markham's skull, meaning experts believe her body was most likely kept somewhere other than the wooded area while her remains were found on Big Cedar Road. And wherever they were hidden, they were probably there for a long time. Unfortunately, the case doesn't come to a close as quickly as prosecutors and Markham's family might have hoped. Even when confronted with an indictment, John Carter maintains his innocence.
David, you've been indicted. And
For what?
murder.
I Okay, but what evidence? There's nothing.
What evidence? There's nothing. Sounds so familiar. All right, guys, I'll see you guys over at church, Countryside Christian Church. If you guys would like to come and worship and everything like that, come on over. I will see you guys just in a few minutes. Take care and God bless. We'll be back later today. Try to make up some time from yesterday and get the channels back up and running now that we're done with one process. Don't forget, we're preparing for another trial, a very, very big trial on the 16th. And I'm trying to balance everything out. But we've heard a lot. I didn't do it. Where's the proof? There's no evidence. We hear all of this all the time. Couple that with lack of urgency, lack of emotion. Everything that we're seeing in our current case is exhibited in this case. The problem is the reality is justice comes very, very slow. All right, guys, take care and God bless.